Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is Bloomberg Businessweek. Insight from the reporters and editors who bring you America's most trusted business magazine, plus global business, finance, and tech news. The Bloomberg Businessweek podcast with Massar and Tim Stenovec from Bloomberg Radio.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to stay in the business world, but we're going to kind of get to that which is up on the screen, if you will. And we're going to get to what has been described as the Gen Z banking drama. We've talked about it before. It's another depiction of the world that we at Bloomberg so love so much, the financial and investment world. It's something that the HBO series industry is all about, everybody. Here's a peek look at season 3.
I got an email about a girl on your desk dealing with some embezzlement and a missing daddy.
The press want a public face for this scandal.
I needed my friend, and you used me. Does it appall you that I have somehow managed to make it on my own?
Everyone's collateral.
We hold the line. Where's your stomach?
I hope you all enjoy feeling your flesh sear in the hell you've created.
All right, everybody. I feel like you should be in that show, Matt. All right, great to have back with us is Mickey Down and Konrad Kay, the writers and co-creators of HBO series Industry, here back in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Season 3, congratulations, guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is an achievement.
Thank you so much.
Did you ever think it was going to make it to season 3?
Of course not. No, we never think so. We always write as if we're writing the last episode. But yeah, it's a privilege.
I mean, the odds, honestly, in the media industry are against you getting 2 extensions, right? And that's a pretty amazing achievement.
The odds are against getting a season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing achievement. We're really, really happy.
Well, Konrad, tell us what it's meant for you.
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, me and Mickey have known each other, and we're now in our mid-30s. I've known Mickey since he was 18, and to get this, we're best friends. To get to do this on this scale has been a dream come true. And like as Mickey, doing it with HBO, they really took a huge punt on us. We were very, very green and very inexperienced, and you can't really make TV anywhere else, in my opinion.
And I know we've talked about this. I was thinking about this. All of us, I mean, I sit in our makeup room or in our newsroom, like, I've got an idea for a show. It hasn't happened. I'm still here, and I'm happy to be here. But I mean, you guys actually had an idea. And it worked out. How did that come to be?
Well, we met at Oxford. We went into careers in finance. I worked in investment banking. Konrad was on the trading floor. Right. That's how the story. I mean, it was based on our experiences originally.
But we all have had interesting, crazy experiences.
True.
Matt's going to have
but not like they do on the trading floor, right? I mean, the trading floor is on another level. There's a story today about an ICAP broker who had a client from Citi who just continued to harass her. And she went to HR and said, this is a problem. The guy's making me feel uncomfortable. And her boss was like, I don't care. He brings us so many trades. Suck it up, basically. That's not unusual, is it?
No, it feels very realistic. I mean, some people say to us a criticism of the show, they think it's hyper sensationalized. But like we experienced, I worked on a trading floor for 3 years at a big American bank. This was pre-Me Too, but it still felt like very much a hierarchical place where women were having to behave in a certain way, and in a way men weren't expected to be honest.
Well, but go back to how it happened. I mean, because it's like I said, we all have great ideas. Like, how did you make it happen?
Well, we were working with a producer called Jane Tranter, who was a big cheese at the BBC before setting up her own studio, and we were doing something totally different for her. And then she basically discovered that we were 2 ex-bankers, and she said, did you ever want to write about this world? And we had written about it. We'd written a really bad script about it, basically based on our own experiences, and it was incredibly boring and formless. But it was a script about finance. And the way that we opened it up is obviously there's loads of depictions of finance that we all know and love, but they're always from the top down. They're always about the people who have the most power in the industry. So our way of going through it was, the new lens was to go through the people who had the least amount of power, people going to the job for the first time, which was reflective of our experience.
And they're still partying like constantly, right? I mean, is it the same, you think, post Me Too in this new era as it was back in the days of heaven and hell parties and the Predator's Ball?
I think. I mean, look. These places have to evolve. They have to evolve with the times. They have to keep up with the times. HR departments are incredibly much stronger now than they were 10 years ago. But I think human behavior. I mean, some people say this show is quite a cynical take on the world, but me and Mickey have quite cynical take on the business. So I think it's a pretty realistic depiction of how things still unfold.
How do you kind of keep the story going, or how do you think about what drives it?
we have very good writers. I mean, we have insanely good writers' room. Like me and Mickey are sort of standing on the shoulders of really strong collaborators. So we go into a room for 12 weeks. We break the episodes with writers. We go away and write them. And it's a contemporary show. We loved it. Ironically, given we were both spat out by the business, we find finance fascinating now that we're writing about it rather than doing it. If that makes sense.
We've got great consultants as well. One of which is quite a well-known person who doesn't want to be named.
Yeah, that's not out there.
And he absolutely loves using our show as to basically bash people he used to work with.
Well, listen, Billions, right? You think about Billions, right? They had some really incredible consultants too, right? To make sure that the hedge fund world, right, that investment world was depicted pretty accurately. And for all of us, it was like a guessing game of like, who was it based on?
That wasn't a guessing game at all.
It's quite obvious.
We all know who it was based on.
I know, but you know that there were nuances that you maybe wanted to still figure out.
Do you get any commentary from the pros? Like if you're hanging out at a pub in the city, does someone say, "Oh, that show's actually very realistic," or "No, that's way off. That's not how we like sell
We get
bonds."
accosted by people in the pub all the time.
And they often show their own narcissism as well, because they come up and say, "Oh, that character's quite clearly me." Yeah,
so we don't even
I don't know who you are, dude. But yeah, no. People in the business say it's quite accurate. We get approached quite a lot.
I still get a lot of LinkedIn messages saying you got me into finance via your show.
Seriously,
which is quite.
We didn't actually write it as a recruitment tool, but ironically, it's become
that I think is very interesting because you have a cynical take on the industry. It's very dramatic in a way that maybe people don't necessarily want to be involved with, and yet you're recruiting people to the industry. Do you find that more often than you're making people leave the industry?
I think it's obviously we left it, but there's a certain amount of seduction in the show, and it makes the industry look sexy. Someone said to me the other day, "You've made banking sexy again," and I said, "Well, that's exactly what I set out to do." So I'm very happy.
You also get into ethical investing, which I think is interesting. We talk a lot, in the Bloomberg world about the rethink of ESG, right? Going through a lot of changes. Why did you choose that topic? Is it just because it's kind of top of mind right now? Or has been for a while?
It felt like it was as we say, when we start breaking the season, we have the consultant in and we just talk about big macro trends and themes. It felt like something that we wanted the show to be more intelligible in the third season. We didn't want it to be just loads of finance technobabble, so we set it around an IPO. We thought that was more in the world. ESG is just one of those things which I think it's an acronym, but you still you understand the real world impact of what it is. And also the show functions that we kind of call it a bit of a high tone satire. It's always got its kind of tongue in its cheek a little bit, and it felt like the perfect thing. That you think the show's cynical, it feels like the perfect thing for us to kind of try and interrogate and undercut a little bit, and it's a good avenue for humor, to be honest.
How do you like working with HBO? And what's it like? I think you said it's the only place that's really making TV right now. Why do you say that?
Well, I just think it's still the gold standard. It's still the home of prestige television. I think we have no experience working with anyone else really, so it's not easy for me to say.
No, but you talk to people on other shows. You've been doing this for years now. You've got 3 seasons.
And I'm always astounded by the amount of people who say to us, "You have no idea how much latitude they give you." They give us amazing notes. They're very collaborative. They push us in the right direction.
What kind of notes do they give you? I'm always curious
they never
about
tell
the
us to
process.
censor ourselves. They don't tell us to censor ourselves.
They always tell us to push ourselves into darker places, more interesting places, more human places. They're very, as Mickey says, they're amazing collaborators. Very incisive.
I think a lot of TV is censored now. A lot of it's quite bland. I think a lot of it's quite down the line. And I still think HBO is the place where you go if you want to make stuff that's provocative. And
it was definitely, if you think you go back to Sopranos, you go to Sex and the City. Like, it was a moment in time where I feel like all of a sudden TV really did push the limit, right? And they did set the standard for it. And it does feel like, I don't know if it's gone backwards a little bit.
I like Episodes. Have you seen Episodes?
I don't know that I've seen Episodes.
It's a great show about people, people from Britain. They come to LA to make a show. And when you say that HBO is giving you notes, I'm thinking about the way they did it in that show.
It's a good depiction of it, actually. It is a good depiction of it. It's a good show. It's funny.
So, what about the streaming model? I mean, we saw these strikes that went on for so long last year, and it's so much harder for actors to get what they want out of it. There's so much concern about AI. There's so much happening in media right now. What do you think about being in it at this time in your life, or at this time in its life?
Well, it's challenging. It's like whenever big tech disrupts anything, it doesn't really think about it acts first and then doesn't really think about the long-term consequences of what it's doing. I mean, for us, the streaming model, I can just talk about it practically in terms of we really like the fact that HBO put the show out week to week, and that you can't binge it. And though it's a very bingeable show, there are seasons of TV which Disney put out, and they had to have a cultural moment that lasts about 2 days. Whereas HBO make it more of an event-driven thing. The show's going to air for 8 weeks. Hopefully, it's going to be a bit of a conversation.
Back to the old times of like Destination View, or
hopefully.
And it's something on a Sunday night, and people talk about it on Monday morning. It's not rocket science.
It was like that with Game of Thrones and Silicon Valley and Veep when they were all on.
For sure. I feel like it's kind of weirdly disrespectful of people's work, because people, like 150 people worked on our show for a year of their lives. For it to go in a weekend feels a little bit.
It's like one rainy weekend, and we all just binge. We've all done it.
Exactly.
Where do you guys want to take the show, or how do you think about it?
We want to keep doing it. I mean, as I joked earlier about the fact that we never know whether we're going to come back or not. So we always write the last episode of each season to feel like it could be a finale, but with the door slightly ajar.
That's a little tough, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's going back to what you said about this. That's the business at the moment. You're not guaranteed a third, fourth season. It's getting a third season that feels totally wild to me. So I think we'd love to continue it. We directed the last 2 episodes, which was a new experience. Without ruining it, the show goes...
First time you guys directed?
First time we directed.
Yeah.
And the show ends in a very bold note, which allows for new stories, but also closes the door on other ones. So I think there's more to be said here.
It's interesting that you make it, that you're making it in a way, I don't want to say more serious, but it's like the arc that Barry took, where it started out as a comedy and became a drama. Mm-hmm. What's ahead if you get a season 4? I mean, do you continue that arc towards
the show? Kind of it just matured in the sense that me and Mickey and all the actors were very young when it first aired, and the show had a very YA feel. It was about drugs, sex, rock and roll, young grads. Mm-hmm. They're now in a position where both fictionally and in real life, they've grown up, we've grown up. We just can't help but write about sort of more mature, deeper, more adult themes. So I think that's where the resonance you're talking about comes. And I think we'll just continue to do that if we get given the opportunity.
Is there ever an offshoot of it? As you guys think, do you think about
what other products are you spinning out?
The Pierpoint universe.
Yeah, 18th Pierpoint. Yeah, period drama. That would be quite fun. It would be cool.
Do you guys miss being in the world of finance? I mean, you get to kind of live it by writing about it.
We get to live it writing about it. We get to meet really influential people within it. I am so much more fascinated now by it than I was when I was actually in it, because I was doing junior banker at an European investment bank doing Excel spreadsheets. I wasn't actually having to write about the things.
But you loved it when you were there.
Oh, I didn't love it at all.
Oh. I'm just kidding.
No.
We were shameless. We were chewed up and spat out. I was unceremoniously thrown out the door of Morgan Stanley.
What's the city like post-Brexit? I mean, I know back in the day when I worked in London in the early 2000s, and it was like the heart of global finance, right? Of course, New York is also incredibly significant, but there was a concern that post-Brexit that would fall apart and it would all go to the continent, which I don't think has happened at all.
I don't think it has. I mean, culturally, just walking around the city or walking around London, you feel the impact and atmosphere of finance still. I mean, every single person and their brother is wearing a vest and coming out of a pub on the Tuesday. So it feels like, maybe it feels a little slightly less electric than it did. I mean, just speaking to our friends that are high up in big investment banks, just the way you're allowed to behave feels slightly different. That's probably had a different effect on
Correct me if
culture.
I'm wrong, but all the bulge brackets like Goldman and all these, their European hub is still London. It's not like they moved to Paris.
No, none of them moved. But for a minute they thought about, hey, maybe we go to Frankfurt, and the employees kind of said, no way, I'm not going to Frankfurt, no matter how much you pay me.
But they've come back. I mean, the cap on bonuses is no longer there, and I feel like this new government is making inroads to having a relationship with the finance community
and with Europe again.
Yeah. So I think maybe we're just going to go back 8 years.
What do you guys find fascinating about the current financial world?
Do you
Whoa,
get caught
that
up?
was a big pause.
Did you get caught up in the stock slide the last few days? I mean, were you watching the non-farm payrolls number come out and think,
it was great. I thought it was very good viral marketing for our show. That was the biggest sell-off in Japan. And
we get paid in dollars, so we often Mickey's offering monitoring central bank news to see if we're going to lose a couple of $1,000s on our paycheck. That's about as much of our finance interest goes, really.
Interesting. All right, fascinating stuff.
No, it is really, I don't know. It sounds like you're having fun. It sounds like you'll find out if there's, the third season's just getting underway. So I feel terrible to talk about a fourth season, but we'll see, right, what happens. I mean, it's really gone on a lot longer than I bet you guys thought.
Oh my God, yeah.
For sure. I would just say as a quick sales pitch, if you were turned off by seasons 1 and 2, I think season 3 you could almost watch cold, and it's a really universal and engaging story. So.
Why would we be turned off by seasons 1 and 2?
No, I'm just saying, you know, because some people thought it was, you know, slightly.
Is your audience? Is your audience more Gen Z and millennials? Do you think you connect with an older audience?
I don't know how many Gen Z people watch TV, to be honest. I mean, but it's definitely. I would say it skews younger, but we're hoping to. As I said before, like the show's become more adult, so hopefully.
Does HBO ever sit down with you and say, "Look, you're not getting the 45 to 55-year-olds"? Like, do you look at the demographics?
Never had that conversation.
No.
I think it's a broad demographic. I mean, my father-in-law, who's an ex-judge who in his 60s loves the show, but he said he would love there to be a button where it just skips all the sex scenes because he likes the business, he likes the finance, he doesn't want to see any of these young people having sex. He says, but I think look, the show is mature, much more mature than it was.
So
it's an explosive season.
What do you hope people get out of it? Just to kind of wrap up, Mickey, let me ask you first.
Look, it's not a didactic show. It's not preachy. I think it's really, really entertaining. I think this is the most explosive seasons yet, and it's just a lot of fun. It's very, very addictive, and I think people will enjoy it for that reason as well. And if it says something about the world, then that's a plus.
Konrad, last 30 seconds for you.
I think it's one of the few TV shows in which I think will force you to put down your phone and not second screen it, because it's engaging, it's dialogue driven. Turn on the subtitles, there are loads of jokes in the background. Enjoy it.
All right. Always a good thing to put your phone down. Guys, thank you so much. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Konrad Kay, Mickey Down, of course, the writers, co-creators, and executive producers of the HBO drama series Industry. It's streaming already?
It comes out on Sunday.
Okay,
9
good.
p.m.
9 p.m.
All right, Sunday, 9 p.m. All right, folks.
But you can binge the first 2 seasons.
No, you can't. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You can't binge season number 3.
Catch up.
This is the Bloomberg Businessweek podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.